How did ancient humans say goodbye? Imagine standing in a cave 60,000 years ago. The air is cooled, thick with smoke from a dying fire. Around you, a small group of people, perhaps 15, perhaps 20, gather in silence near the cave wall. One of them holds flowers, bright yellow flowers. They place them gently beside a body, laid carefully on its side, knees drawn toward the chest, as if sleeping. This is not a story. This is Shanidar in modern-day Iraq, and what archaeologists found there rewrote everything we thought we knew about our ancient ancestors. Because before doctors, before religion, before anyone had written a single word about life after death, ancient humans were already burying their dead with care, with ritual, with love. Why? The answer reveals something surprising about human nature and may even change the way you think about grief itself. The first evidence. For the most of the 20th century, scientists believed that burial was a relatively recent human invention, something that emerged with modern Homo sapiens, maybe 30,000, maybe 40,000 years ago, a sign of cognitive sophistication, of religion, of culture with a capital C. Then came Shanidar. In the 1950s, archaeologist Ralph Selecki was excavating a cave in the Zagros Mountains when his team uncovered something extraordinary. Neanderthal skeletons, not scattered, not scavenged, not discarded, but deliberately placed in shallow graves, arranged in positions of rest, and surrounding one of them, concentrated in the soil around the skull and torso, were enormous quantities of flower pollen. Not just any pollen, medicinal plants, yarrow, cornflower, St. Barnaby's thistle, plants that traditional healers across the region still use today. Flowers on a grave 60,000 years ago. Neanderthals. The group we spent decades dismissing as brutish cave dwellers, incapable of symbolic thought, incapable of culture, incapable of feeling, were burying their dead with flowers before modern humans even arrived in the region. This single discovery opened a door that no one expected. And this brings us back to the question we began with. If Shanidar showed us Neanderthals burying their dead 60,000 years ago, then Qafzeh Cave in modern-day Israel pushed the timeline back even further, 100,000 years. Modern Homo sapiens, our direct ancestors, buried with deliberate care, hands arranged, bodies surrounded by objects, a child buried with a deer antler across their chest, another body stained with red ochre, the earliest known use of pigment in a burial context. The ochre matters, because ochre is not food, it is not a tool, it serves no practical survival function. It is color, it is decoration, it is meaning. And here is where the cognitive leap becomes astonishing. To bury someone, to intentionally place a body in the ground, you must first understand something that no other animal on Earth seems to grasp. Death is permanent. The person is not sleeping. They are not going to wake up. You must hold in your mind two ideas at once: the physical body that remains and the absence of the person who inhabited it. That concept, that someone can be gone, is not obvious. It is not instinctive. Many animals show distress at death. Elephants touch the bones of their dead. Chimpanzees grow quiet and withdrawn. But no other species gathers at a specific location, digs a grave, places objects beside the body, and returns to that spot generation after generation. This was not just grief. This was memory. This was ritual. This was, perhaps for the first time, the beginning of the question that has haunted humanity ever since. What happens after? But what if burial was not only about love? What if it was also about survival? Archaeologist Robert Gargett at the University of New England proposed something that sounds far less romantic, but is equally powerful.
He argued that the earliest burials may have had a deeply practical function. In the warm climates where early humans lived, a decomposing body attracted predators. It spread disease. It contaminated water sources. A band of 15 to 30 hunter-gatherers could not afford to ignore a corpse. Disposal was not optional, it was urgent. And yet, and this is the critical point, humans did not simply dispose of their dead. They did not drag bodies to a distant location and abandon them. Even the very earliest graves, Qafzeh, school, the oldest sites in Africa, show evidence of something more. Bodies were positioned. Objects were included. The grave was marked. Practicality does not explain flowers. This is where the evolutionary argument becomes fascinating, because burial solved multiple problems at once. It removed the health hazard, it prevented scavengers, but it also created something else entirely, a shared practice, a ceremony that bound the group together at the moment of its greatest vulnerability. When someone in a band of 20 people died, a hunter, a gatherer, a mother, a child, the group lost a part of itself. Burial was not just disposal, it was repair. It told the living, we are still here, we are still us. This person mattered, and we will honor that, and then we will continue. Grief, from an evolutionary perspective, may be one of the most powerful social glues ever developed. It forces the group to pause, to gather, to acknowledge loss together. Perhaps burial was never only for the dead. Perhaps it was, from the very beginning, for the living. And this brings us back to the question we began with, but through a different lens entirely. Because if the earliest burials emerged on the African continent, and the evidence increasingly points in that direction, then African ancestral traditions around death carry a direct, unbroken line back to the origins of human ritual itself. Consider the practice of ancestor veneration found across sub-Saharan Africa. In many traditions, the dead are not truly gone. They become intermediaries, spirits who watch over the living, who must be honored, consulted, remembered. The burial is not an ending, it is a transition. The Dogon people of Mali carve elaborate funeral masks and perform multi-day ceremonies that guide the spirit from the world of the living to the world of the ancestors. Among the Zulu, a proper burial ensures the deceased joins the Adlozi, the ancestral spirits who protect and guide the family. If the burial is done wrong, if the rituals are not followed, the spirit may wander, may cause harm, may never find peace. These traditions are not superstition. Looked at through the evolutionary lens, they are exceptionally sophisticated systems of grief management. Multi-day ceremonies spread the emotional burden across time and across the community. The entire village participates, not just the immediate family. The belief in ancestor spirits ensures that the deceased is never fully lost, that the relationship continues, transformed, but not ended. The same pattern repeats globally. Every culture on Earth developed burial rituals, not one exception. From the sky burials of Tibet to the Viking ship burials of Scandinavia, humans everywhere decided independently that the dead must be honored, must be remembered, must be sent somewhere. This is not coincidence. This is not culture spreading through contact. This is something deeper, something wired into what it means to be human. And yet, here is the paradox of the modern world. We now live in an era where death has been pushed to the margins. Professional funeral homes handle the body.
The ceremony, if there is one, lasts an hour or two. The community gathers briefly, then disperses. Grief becomes a private, almost embarrassing experience, something to process quietly, something to recover from, something to move past as efficiently as possible. We have more privacy, more comfort, and more control over death than any humans who have ever lived. And we are terrible at grieving.
Many studies show that many people feel but cannot articulate. Prolonged grief disorder, grief that does not ease, that deepens into a clinical condition, is rising. The isolation of modern mourning, the pressure to return to work, the absence of community ritual, it leaves people stranded. Psychologist Catherine Shear at Columbia University describes grief not as a single emotion, but as a learning process. The brain must slowly, painfully rewire itself to accept that the person is not coming back. And this rewiring requires time, requires community, requires ritual. Sound familiar? Your ancestors gathered for days. They painted bodies with ochre. They placed flowers on graves. They sang. They told stories. They marked the earth so the dead would not be forgotten. They did not do this because they were primitive. They did it because they understood something we are in danger of forgetting. Grief is not a problem to be solved. It is a process that must be witnessed. For 60,000 years, humans have known this. We are the species that buries its dead, not with indifference, not with efficiency, with ceremony, with memory, with love. And though thousands of years separate us from the people who laid flowers in Qafzeh Cave, their gesture speaks directly to us. They were saying goodbye. They were saying you mattered. They were saying we will remember. In many ways, their story is also our story. Before you go, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What surprised you most about how ancient humans treated their dead? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into humanity's past, subscribe to Ash and Origins for more stories exploring the archaeology, anthropology, history, and human experiences that shaped who we are today. Until next time, keep asking questions, because every answer about the past reveals something about ourselves.